You are transported to year 0. With any object from the present with you. Which item do you choose to make people lose their minds the most? Lead hula hoop? Not the answer I was expecting. But man, would people lost their minds at that shit. That would be goddamn hilarious. Actually, this would be awful. Imo, you transport back, put on a mind-blowing light show, and then only have a hula hoop to defend yourself as the town mobs you and drags you off to be burned for your witchery. As many spices and seasonings as I could in their modern day little shaky containers. To say I would be a rich man would be an understatement. Behold, a thimble of powdered nutmeg and 20 cloves. You could choose which lord to turf out when the king asks you which estate you'd like. The concept of thievery was invented way before year 0. Just an FYI. Showing up out of nowhere, knowing no one and looking weird and defenseless while holding immeasurable wealth in an easily transferable form is a bad idea for pretty much any point in human history. Not only that, but considering that outside of large cities, villagers often knew each other, you'd be considered a vagabond. Some stranger who appears out of nowhere with no connections at all, lost, unable to speak our language, and wearing funny clothes, must be trouble. If the point is to blow people's minds, I'd take a gold-plated Apache helicopter and materialize in year 0 at the top of Mount Olympus. I'd fly my golden chariot, circling Athens a few times so everyone notices, land it at the Parthenon, and emerge in a flight suit, minds blown. You know how to fly an Apache helicopter? No. That will make it more interesting. Good point. Time traveling can become a bit mundane otherwise. It's all about the suspense, you know. Gray's Olympics Almanac. Complete Olympics statistics 1 to 50 AD. Just don't let Biff get his hands on it. Biffus Tannus, looking to decline the meanings of Biff's names right into Latin, took me down a rabbit hole. First of all, the surname Tannen is of the same root as Tannenbaum, a German/Jewish name that means pine tree. Considering how pine trees are a passing plot point in the movie, I can't believe I didn't learn this before. I'll come back to this. Now, Biff literally comes from the sound of punching someone, and there's no real Latin translation of that. The best I could find was pugnus, which means fist. I like it because it's reminiscent of repugnant, which is from the same root in Latin, which means makes you want to fight against it, and also because the Indo-European etymology includes the word prick. Presumably the original meaning was closer to put a hole in, which still applies in some meanings of punch. Back to the future surname, the Latin word for pine tree is pinus, which with English pronunciation would be pinus, which is fine and dandy, but the unmentionable Latin pronunciation would be pinus, which is perfectum. The pronunciation of penis in Latin is penis. Different vowels altogether. TL. Doctor/conclusion. Biff Tannen becomes Pugnus Pinus, a man whose names are both dick jokes. I doubt that was the original intent of his name in the movies, but it's too damn perfect to pass up as a translation. It is 2:42 AM. I'm 30 years old, and I have met my fucking hero. Flex Seal, your door is splitting down the middle. There's gaps in your houses. Your cart is broken. Don't you guys worry. I got you covered. To show you the power of Flex Seal, I sawed Noah's Ark in half. That's a lot of damage. And I repaired it with only flex tape. 30 minutes later, it's not as effective as I first thought. A map of the world. Roman Empire in America. I thought if this too. Something like a detailed geological survey map of the world, in the right hands, would be incredibly powerful. You could find paths through mountains, efficient reed routes, and undiscovered lands. With a little study you could locate resources. The edge this would give someone over people without any means to accurately map would be pretty mind-blowing. Yeah, something like a topographical map of the world plus map of rich mineral deposits and mines. That would be incredibly powerful to the ancient world. Calc to kickstart the Industrial Revolution. Maybe in a different continent, just to see how it goes. Finally invent alchemy and magic instead of that fucking science. Probably hastily pick something up at the pharmacy toy aisle before I become the fourth king to present Jesus with a gift. And they brought him gifts of frankincense, myrrh, gold, and this weird ass squishy ball thing with these crazy friggin' spikes all over it. Apostrophe. I want every depiction of the nativity scene to involve a fidget spinner. The perfect balance between the Holy Trinity. When you spin it, you see that the three actually are one, even though they looked distinct and separate before. A camera. And when I show them their picture, I tell them I've captured their soul. Then they kill your ass and smash the camera. Humanity then never invents a camera because it captures souls. Good job. r/them/keyspore. Well, antibiotics and medicines in general. Because if I don't, I'll probably kill everyone with all the diseases that I will bring from the future. Also, they will likely kill you. Basically Jesus' story. Did he bring antibiotics from the future? English author Michael Moorcock wrote a story on this sort of idea. Essentially a psychologist travels back in time to witness Christ in action only to find Jesus, one of Mary and Joseph's many children, profoundly mentally and physically disabled. After much weirdness, the psychologist starts curing people of being possessed by demons using the power of Jung, thus founding Christianity. One strange story that I read when I was 13 and in Catholic school, that was in the early 80s, so I may be remembering it wrong, was called Behold the Man, I think. A lighter. If Hocus Pocus taught me anything, it's that making fire in your hands will freak people out. Also, I'd probably die without one. I was thinking a Costco jumbo box of matches. You'll end up becoming dictator and possibly changing the global history. What would be your first write-up of history? You'll be marked like a witch and most likely executed. This was long before the first witch hunts. Jesus Christ would have been a young child. Julius Caesar's adopted son, the first Roman emperor, Octavian, was 63. The Lincoln Memorial. You never listed a size constraint. A gigantic marble Abraham Lincoln is now hidden somewhere in Australia, having sunk into the dirt that was too weak to hold it. Imagine archaeologists finding a perfect duplicate of the Lincoln Memorial in Australia dating 2000 years old. What would the public reaction be? There would only be a 100-year period where they both exist. Then I get sent back in time with the statue. The real question is, how much does the USA flip their shit when Lincoln vanishes? Secondly, we then start worrying about the poor person who unearths him. Meanwhile, I've been dead for 1960 years or something, or crushed by the statue upon arrival in the past, so I get away with it scot-free. Edit. Refined some dates. What happens depends on if it's unearthed before or after the memorial is built, and before or after it disappears. If it was before it was built, maybe you've created a bootstrap paradox. If they both exist, then it will be a giant conspiracy. If it's found after it disappeared, i.e. modern times, people will have thought it was transported, at least until science shows it's been buried there for 2000 years. Honestly, I hope something like this happens. Lol. 2020 already a wild ride. Jim, a good old time paradox in real life. My prosthetic leg for my amputation. Just being alive would be a feat and the leg would be the icing on the cake. / their leg would be the icing on the cake. Well, now you have to bring ingredients for a cake too. I mean, they had to have cake at that time, right? My 30-second search says that cakes originated in ancient Egypt. So I guess they did have cakes. Probably weren't good ones though. Your username causes anxiety. There's an old story I heard about an interview with a centenarian after the moon landing. They asked this little old lady what the greatest leap forward she'd witnessed was in these last 100 years as the world moved from horses to automobiles, the jet age, the nuclear age, and then the space age. And her reply was the mop. When she was a little girl, they had to scrub the floor on their hands and knees. Then someone attached a handle to the scrub brushes and women could wash the floor standing up. It was the single greatest development in her lifetime. This thing, the stick attached to a scrub brush, impacted her life more than anything else, from Einstein to Henry Ford. Please don't tell me your answer is a mop. No, just the stick. They already have the brush. And this is my broomstick. Kazoo. For obvious reasons. Obviously. Adam Savage's titanium alloy flying Iron Man suit. Possibly with a megaphone mounted in it. Why the megaphone? I want people to be able to hear me over the whine of the jet engines holding me in a hover above their heads. Of course. I don't speak any languages from 2020 years ago, so that's probably pointless. Why not say something in a 2020 language so when scientists find out that rocks record all the sounds produced in their presence and can be released, they go in for a shock. There's actually nothing stopping you from making a wax cylinder recording back then, of course. Creating voice recording equipment in 1 AD would be pretty impressive all on its own. It can be done with wood and wax, obviously, and some effort to work out the gears and needle pressure, etc. But you could certainly do it with the materials you'd have had available at the time. Well, the time machine would likely work as well as anything else. I can't believe nobody else, including me, has thought of this. What if there's no time machine? It's just fucking magic? What then, smarty science man? Then I choose to take a time machine with me. For real, I'd probably get real bored of year 0 pretty quickly. Hentai body pillows. I mean, it's probably a smarter idea than bringing a phone or whatever other piece of technology that needs internet and has a battery life. Why is a phone such a popular answer? Because it's a computer that can do things that would take ages to do by hand. Loaded up with math software and math and science books with lots of diagrams and change history. Then it would be significantly better to bring a rugged laptop with a backpack full of spare batteries. I would sure as shit forget to download one or more apps from the store. But with modern storage devices I could clone the entire Ubuntu repository onto a single drive. Download the entirety of Wikipedia and the US patent catalog while I'm at it. In short, cell phones are incredibly bad for this kind of no network, no grid situation with their short battery lives and extremely limited storage. Not to mention they are pretty fragile. A shit ton of cocaine. Fuck yes. Snorting cocaine and getting busy with the Roman soldiers in the bathhouse is every gay man's fantasy. A good chisel. Going to go make some cave writings with a bunch of info on chemistry, extending into a little of quantum mechanics. About to confuse the fuck out of historians. This is by far my favorite answer, but people nowadays would totally claim it as a hoax. Or aliens. Depends when it gets found. Anytime before 1900 and it fucks with everything. Think the 1900s people that find it would think it was evidence of a past, now extinct, super intelligent race. Only to find out there's the species that eventually invented time travel and then had to send that future Buck Rogers guy back to the past to be the one who chisels the chemistry, else the time travel machine would never itself have been invented. This is why time travel just isn't happening, cause if it ever does we would know it by now, right? Or every time they went back split the timeline and really doesn't change the past at all but instead creates a whole split in time space. The time traveler himself is not even aware that is what is happening, as it's impossible to test let alone prove. Whoa. That's what's called a bootstrap paradox, an event that has no origin and therefore can't exist. A solar powered calculator. It works without needing batteries, which aren't around. Doesn't need the internet or to be plugged in. Innocent enough to make people go wow, but not think of you as some kind of heretic that needs to be burned at the stake. You're probably overestimating what it'd take to be burned at the stake in year 0. Just wait till I show them 80,085. An atom bomb is sure to make everyone lose their mind. Make sure to set its detonating time to the day when it's found. Heck, tell a king in the region that there will be a biblical level explosion where you left the bomb. When it happens, you can say, see, I was right. Use this as one wishes. If you don't do as I, your God, say, then I will bring my wrath upon you. Snaps fingers. Bomb goes off. Enjoy a lifetime of terror worship. War never changes. I bring the book. How to Invent Everything. I'm a time traveler. Seems appropriate. Was just thinking of this book. Really want to read it sometime. A firearm. That would make people lose their minds more than spaceships to us. Especially if you shot their heads. I don't know. They might be more open-minded than you expect. Mind-blowing. Even. You're a bloody genius. If you are new to Tattletale TV, please subscribe. I have new videos every day. Stay tuned right now for another